Welcome to the next episode of the Luminara podcast, where we dive into all things energy healing and have real conversations with those who heal, those who have been healed, and those who want to heal. I'm so excited to have our friend, Jennie Souiade, as today's guest. She is a creative, an entrepreneur, a mom of three, and she has felt the heal. She's the CEO of Magentic, a creative transformation agency that guides brands into a place of authentic alignment and identity. And speaking of alignment, it was energy healing that helped her transition from a global advertising career to becoming a founder and a healer herself.
Thank you so much.
When we met, you told me you first experienced Reiki as a teenager while training as a dancer. So can you take us back to that first Reiki session? What did you feel in your body? When did you realize it was working? Like, you were young. What was that like?
Thank you. It's so good to be here. My first experience with Reiki, I was 16. I had just come off the stage from a dress rehearsal, and a woman met me backstage, like in the little green room. And she knew that I was dancing on 2 sprained ankles. I thought I danced through that pain quite well and didn't let it show, but she knew and came back and offered me to sit down with her and receive Reiki. And inside, like, I just lit up. I was so excited and didn't know what Reiki was yet, but I could feel her energy. And I was just like, whatever you are going to do, please, like, I receive. And so we sat down together. Then my friends kind of gathered around. And so I became a little bit self-conscious just watching people watch me receive this. But then at a certain point, like, I just felt her energy of like this like warm healing cast, like full of tingles. So it was like a cast, but then like a cast of every cell and every tissue and every molecule in my ankle. It was just incredible. And so when I started feeling that, like, I think I just shut my eyes and just let it take me because it was incredible. I was able to dance 3 shows after that, 8 dances in each show. And I probably would have anyway, to be honest. But it was a really magical first experience with Reiki.
Oh. So you mentioned tingles. Did you have like any other sensations like heat or cool, or was it mostly kind of like a pins and needles feeling?
It wasn't pins and needles. It was like, you know, when you get goosebumps like over your entire body, like that's to me like the energy. Like I just feel it all over. And sometimes you'll get like the goosebumps or like the hair on the back of your neck will stick up. It was like that, but intensified in my ankle. It was like I could see inside of my ankle, like a MRI maybe.
Wow.
I was identifying with all of the strains and tissues and pieces, and it was just accessible to me because of this energy and all of those little tingles in there. And yes, there was like a cast, like, you know, like if you were to cast your foot or something.
Yeah, to have to support it in a strong way.
It was like that, but with a heat bubble.
Oh, wow. Okay. So there was some heat. Yeah.
Heat bubble.
Wow. I mean, you were 16 at the time. You were young. Were you kind of open-minded to this anyways? Did you know about it or?
Know about Reiki specifically,
Yeah.
but I was very open. My cousin and I would have like telepathic conversations across the lunch table. And then like afterwards, we'd actually verbalize it to be like, we were really conversing there, weren't we? And she's like, yeah, like that's exactly what I was telling you. So it was fun to validate those. And I've had other situations where my brother had gotten hurt on the playground and I knew, and somehow my teacher knew that I knew. So I was there before the ambulance was. And it's just like moments like that that really validate like spirit is so real.
Yeah.
It's such a tool for us if we're open to it. And so, yes, I was open to it. I was open to Reiki. I was open to receiving. I was open to her energy also. And there's a discernment there. Yeah. So I'm not open to any energy because I do feel it. And I feel when it resonates well with me, and I feel that there's an integrity within it and a good intention within it. And if there's not, I know when to stay away.
Yeah. Have you met healers before, or people who were saying that they were healers that maybe didn't have the best intentions? Like, how did you kind of intuitively recognize that?
There's a couple things, but one this is funny to share. Thank you for this opportunity.
Of course.
Sometimes, and it's interesting that it's not just healers, but it's founders who are doing wonderful work. I don't want to get myself in trouble here either.
I won't tell on you.
Thank you. It's interesting that there are some founders who may be energetically connected in these ways, but potentially not, definitely not with the right intentions, at least with how my energy feels it and senses it. And for me, I've honed into this feeling, and now I get this like clairvoyant cobra. It's like this viper snake hooded animal that comes out as like a flash of just like warning to me.
Wow.
And then I'm like, whoop, let go, like detach, do not let them, like set a boundary and separate, because I am very open. And so I do have to be very conscious about setting those boundaries. And then with the transformation agency too, part of it is that energy comes from pain. It comes from somewhere. So part of that transformation work is if and when people are ready to heal.
Yeah.
And meet them
where they are too.
Where they are.
Exactly.
Even if it feels like that, if they're approaching me to do it, to heal, even if it's through their business work, and there's that transparency and openness and understanding of where they are, then it works too. Like we do trust them.
So I think you told me the last time we talked that it was kind of, you've had a couple of healing experiences along the way. Your second one was maybe a number of years later.
16 years later.
Wow, almost like double time.
Double the time. And 16 is my favorite number. So it's kind of synchronicity.
Yeah. So what happened? What was the second one?
So I had finally started earning enough money that I was like, I am going to treat myself to Reiki. Now, how did I get to that point too? Yes, I'd had that earlier experience, but 16 years passed. Like, that's a long time. And I didn't necessarily remember that it was Reiki, which is what she did. And I was telling one of my executive creative director friends, like a global leader, how I was healing, not healing, I didn't even call it healing at the time. I was just smoothing out the colors in my first child so she could fall asleep. And he's like, you should look into this, that, and the other thing. And one of the things was Reiki. And so I did. I Googled it. Like, I still didn't know the word even. Googled it, looked into it, and I was like, yeah, definitely, let's do this. And so I found myself on Thumbtack and found a practitioner who I can feel the energy, even async. Like, you can put Reiki into website, into yourself, into conversation, hopefully in this conversation, it's async. It's a space and time irrelevant energy. And so I felt this Reiki practitioner's energy in her announcement saying, I do Reiki, come meet me. And so I did.
Wow. And where was she at the time?
She was doing Reiki 2 at the time in Manhattan.
In Manhattan. Cool.
Now she is in Japan, in Okinawa.
Oh, wow.
Like, Reiki master, sound healer, glorious. Like, she's devoted her whole life to it.
Wow. And can you walk us through, once you got to her workspace, like what you felt again? Was it similar, kind of the heat bubble? Was it the tingles, or did you have other sensations, other things you were working on, emotional shifts that needed to take place?
Yes. When I got to her office, I remember being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm really doing this. Kind of self-judging myself of like, I'm going into a Reiki place, like into this magical thing. Like, the judgments were coming in. And so I had a fair amount of skepticism, being like, okay, if I don't feel anything, you did the thing. I'm proud of you for trying. Fine, move on. But I think having that level of skepticism allowed me to really validate the feeling when I did feel it, because I knew that I wasn't just wanting to feel something and then like made it up. It was like, oh, you're skeptical? Watch this. It was incredible. And it was like she just lifted a lid on me and I rose into different dimensions. And at one point I felt like I was levitating, and it was incredible. And afterwards, like, well, not even afterwards, but towards the end, my eyes were watering, and I was coming out of this realm and just feeling so much gratitude for her. And what was really interesting about that too is, in feeling gratitude, like, it brought me back into it, and it brought her with me in a certain way, because at the end she's like, what did you do? What did you do at the end? Because that was really interesting and special and cool.
Wow. And were you seeking it for a certain problem that an issue where you were dealing with, or?
No, I think I just always wanted to do it, and finally had my own means to make it happen. Like, it wasn't like and my husband or my parents or someone. It was like, I finally earned enough money that I was like, okay, I can spend things like Reiki.
Yeah. You can spend your money on the things that you want for yourself.
Exactly. It was
And
beyond
dabble with what those things are.
beyond spending money on diapers and food for the kids and classes. It was like, I'm going to spend this on me because this is really important to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. I think especially as a mother, taking that time to focus on yourself and to heal yourself. It's like, I really believe the only way that we can still be a beacon of light for others is when we work on ourselves and heal what's going on inside.
Definitely. And when I am aligned, everything else around me is so much smoother.
Yeah.
My kids are happier. My husband's happier.
It's crazy how that happens.
It's crazy, but also, like, of course.
It makes sense.
You know?
It does. It's kind of like, it reminds me of this really cheesy line that you hear a lot, but it's like, happy wife, happy life. And I think there's a depth to it that is like, a woman's power is big and it is radiant. And if there is a little blockage or something in the way where, there's a disturbance in that energetic field, it radiates and has a ripple effect beyond just herself. And so I think when women can work on honing that energy of theirs, aligning it, cleaning it, like, it has very positive effects for those around them.
It's honing it and owning it.
I like that. That is definitely a soundbite. What do you think is one way that Reiki helped you beyond what you expected?
Reiki helped me validate that energy is real. So the fact that I could go to a healer expecting her to help me experience new dimensions, it was just so clear that it was obvious. It was one of those, like, of course moments. And a different creative director and I joke about this of course moment. And this of course is like, obviously.
Yeah.
It's that magical connection where and yet you have to validate it in this physical reality, in this space and time. And that's what this energy does. It brings all of those connections into the physical, which is where we are operating right now.
Yeah. If you had to sum up the biggest change Reiki has made in your life, what would you say it is?
The honing it and owning it. I would say honing my energy, giving myself permission to feel energy, to hold energy, to align with it, and to really take the time to sort it out within myself. And it's within myself, but also within everything.
Yeah.
And it's that connection. It's all of those pieces and how they connect.
Yeah. You talk about validation, and I think a lot of people are searching for that. I think a lot of people are skeptical. And so, like, what do you tell people who might be skeptical of energy healing?
I think it's good when people are skeptical.
Yeah, same.
Because if they've got a balance of skepticism but open curiosity, that to me is the perfect recipe. It's also kind of, interestingly, we kind of talked about this earlier, is that kind of male-female dynamic of, like, men are protecting us in this physical world at least archetypically.
Yeah.
To say that. And women protect us in the spiritual reality. And when I realized that, it let me not resent my husband for making more money than me. And it allowed me to really own my role of energetically holding our family. So when we have this opportunity to be half discerning, half open and curious, it really creates this beautiful balance of power and safety to align in a really good place, a healthy place. Because the idea is that you're grounding and connecting. And if you don't have one of those, you'll kind of spiral.
Yeah, I see this like it's really interesting to use power and safety as almost like juxtaposed, because it can be true that when there is power, it can be a little bit more wild, a little bit more electric, and then safety is a lot the containment of that.
Yeah.
And so to be able to couple power and safety into an experience is like, how do you tame that chaos? How do you contain that energy in a way that's focused, which is energy healing, which is Reiki, like containing the focus of the energy and concentrating it on a part of the body or on a part of a body system or a soul. So I think that's a really interesting way to put it, power and safety. I love that.
I love that. And it's in the physical and energetic dimensions.
Yeah. I feel like this could be entirely another podcast after this, completely. But that is all the time that we have for today. I have really enjoyed hearing more about your story and learning more about your experience with energy healing and how it's changed your life and how it's honed in on what you do for your career now, and also how you are and exist within your family. That's a beautiful part I didn't know, and I'm grateful that you shared that.
Yeah.
So thank you also to our listeners and our viewers out there. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. See you in the next one.